Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
One question, how much time do we have?
We have 2 hours. You
Oh,
can take 1 hour, 1 hour and a half, and the rest is for questions, discussion, and
okay.
else. Okay.
I think I won't need so much time, but it's good to know.
Okay. Okay, okay. Well, so,
¿Empezamos?
okay. Sí, está bien.
Sí. Pues
Bueno,
bienvenidos a todos y a todas por estar aquí con nosotros en la segunda, tercera sesión del ciclo de nuevos paradigmas en fonología formal. En esta ocasión tenemos la presencia de em, Dominique Bobeck, y nos va a hablar de polaridad. El título de presentación es Vowel Disharmony as Polarity in Man and Beyond. Antes de darle la palabra a Dominique, voy a leer una breve semblanza de su trabajo. Dominique Bobeck es candidato a doctor en la Universidad de Leipzig, en Alemania. Colabora estrechamente también con la Universidad Humboldt en Berlín, específicamente en la unidad de lingüística de corpus y de morfología. Su investigación se ha centrado en la relación entre la fonología y la morfología, sobre todo, pero no exclusivamente, en lenguas semíticas. Se interesa también en la fonología métrica. Ha publicado trabajos sobre la morfología del árabe, en los que cuestiona fuertemente las teorías tradicionales y propone enfoques fonológicos innovadores. Sus intereses académicos también se centran en las lenguas construidas o colangs y la manera en la que éstas son percibidas en el componente fonológico. Bueno, el título de esta presentación es Vowel Disharmony as Polarity in Man and Beyond. So thank you very much, Dominique, for being here with us. So
Yeah, thank you for the introduction. Actually, if I Google myself, I still find at a very early position this link to the Humboldt Universität, where I made my master degree and where I still teach as a affiliate teacher, even though I'm principally connected to Leipzig first. Yeah, but still I feel at home at Humboldt Universität, and yeah, corpus linguistics was a nice time, but I think I feel more comfortable with theoretical phonology, I must admit. Yeah. Yeah, I think we can start. Thank you for the introduction. If you're interested, you can find my slides here in at this QR code. There's everything you need. It's also you can see it in the end of the last slide. Yeah, actually, the beyond was smaller in the end than expected, actually, due to my sickness of COVID. But still, we'll have to look at least one other Mayan language. Well, as you probably know, Mam is a Mayan language in Guatemala. And we'll have also look on Yucatec, for instance. Okay, I think we can start more or less. This roadmap. Oh, I tried to make it as Mexican as I could. This is not Mexico. This is actually Tenerife, so almost. This is our roadmap. And I think we should start with polarity. And there are some languages where it's a reasonable assumption to say, oh, there's polarity. What does this mean? In Hebrew and Biblical Hebrew, you have two tenses or aspects with different conjugation classes, one could say, and look at these examples, moshal, qaton, and lavesh. And this vowel changes from R to O, from O to R, and from E to R. The first vowel disappears in the imperfect, so this is the usual way of constructing the imperfect or imperfective tense aspect. So we have a correspondence between R and O and R, and E and R. So we can conclude that low vowel becomes non-low, and non-low vowels become low. This is the reasoning behind it. Yeah, for polarity, we have this low polarity in distinctive non-privative features. There can be a default maybe that back vowels are preferred, so we don't produce e. But yeah, this is actually how I came upon polarity and disharmony. I'm actually more interested in Semitic languages, as Mario also mentioned. But yeah, I actually a very nice class about Middle American languages when I was a MA student. But in biblical Hebrew, there are still some examples that violate this generalization of polarity. For instance, Gardal, to be big, tall, is Yigdal and not Yigdol or similar in biblical Hebrew. So maybe there is some polarity, but in fact, it's difficult to say. If there is polarity, then it's not pretty regular. All instances of polarity you can see here and which are attested are kind of imperfect, actually. There's a very famous example from a language in the Sudan or South Sudan. I don't know so properly, but in Dulu, you can see that at least many examples have polarity between voiceless and voiced consonants. So you can see that p, t, k, b, d, and g become the voiced, non-voiced counterpart in the plural. So p becomes b, t becomes d, k becomes g, and so on. So this looks like polarity. Now, do we have it? Is this true polarity? The answer is actually no. There are some examples like other plurals like kupa or chupa and chupe, ipe, autito, autite, and so on, where no polarity takes place. Yeah, there are also other things at work, but the Lu is, even though it's very complicated and was a prime example of polarity, it's not. There's much work, as you can see below, on polarity, or at least no polarity, in fact. So polarity is a kind of debatable subject, but it's still in the atmosphere of linguistics. So maybe there is polarity, but it's difficult. There's also a nice example from Spanish, in fact, and I'm happy to present this example because I didn't know when I found this example that I will present this to a Spanish-speaking audience one time. We can treat the subjunctive in Spanish, I took European Spanish in this case, as polarity. Look at the theme vowels highlighted here. So now there's some phonology going on. Doblo is actually kind of dobla plus O, but this is another topic. The generalization is that if there's an R in the indicative, it's E in the subjunctive for the theme vowel. And so with comer and morir, it's comes, yeah, you eat, you're eating, but comes in the subjunctive, so we have the other way around. And also, if the theme vowel is actually E, often it's just E, then becomes R as well. So we could analyze this as polarity of plus and minus low features. There could also be a different way of explaining it, like it's just coincidence. In a distributed morphology way, we could say that we have different rules, that our theme vowel is A in the context of a couple of roots like hablar, llamar, cantar, and so on, if the mood is indicative. So with comer, temer, romper, and so on, and decir, sorry, I'm a Mexican now, abrir, huir, and so on. And yeah, here for the subjunctive, so it's just a coincidence. Of course, we could do it in a more fine-grained way, saying that we have first rules saying how the exponents of A and E are, and then we have a default rule using the elsewhere principle in phonology, also morphology here. But this is, more formal, technical way of explaining it. But still, there's some doubts on it. Fitzpatrick et al. Say that we have this exchange rule in the present subjunctive in a more morphological way and exclude a phonological way of explanation. Here's a quote from this article. One may treat this phonologically. R becomes A in the subjunctive, but we must ask under such an account why E to R and not E to A, why A R and not A to E, and so on. So for them, it looks kind of random that this is precisely between R and both A and E at the same time. But actually, we shall see that this is not random. This is pretty regular, in fact. Okay, I've shown you some examples of alleged polarity. At least descriptively, we could say that a feature alpha f is realized as minus alpha f in a specific morphological or morphosyntactic context. So this is just a description, not a theory, just a description. Maybe there's really theoretical polarity, but it's difficult. Maybe there's not polarity. This because, there is not a single tested unambiguous case of phonological polarity. There are also other cases of polarity, in fact, but I focus on morphophonological polarity only. So far to some examples. From a descriptive point of view, if we want, big if we want to treat polarity as a thing, as a unified thing, then there are several accounts that explain it. For instance, Delacey has an account that says we have this in the Luo, this odd exponent, which is associated with two partial exponents as well, such as plus voice, minus sonorant, and also minus voice. So we have this overspecification of voicing here, and it is realized as odd in this context and as odd in other contexts. For this explanation, he draws on a constraint he calls morpheme morph dis f for all morphemes m. There is some faithful exponent e of m, and e is not a faithful exponent of any other morpheme m2, where m and m2 are in the same stem. So this constraint does not look on the input and the output, but on different paradigms of morphology. Actually, I think Delacey wouldn't stick to this analysis anymore, and there are other works of him by him where he took a different path. And if we look at this quote by Kiparsky, then I think we can understand why he abandoned this original approach. Citing Kiparsky, transderivational constraints undermine 3/T central goals: formalization, learnability, and a restrictive factual typology. And this constraint is transderivational since it looks at different parts of a paradigm. So we have problems with three major things, and should be abandoned. In 2008, Matthew Wolff actually improved this idea, but still tried to cap the idea of overspecification. At least in the original approach, this works like this, that odd becomes odd because of this constraint, and thereby becomes dep of the same constraint. So this is how it works. I think it's more visible in the Wolff account, actually. Sorry. The idea is that we have this stem but, and again, overspecification for voicing, both minus voice and plus voice. And there's a constraint that means you should keep floating elements. This is meant with max float. Another constraint that says no vacuous docking. This is the case if, we shall see. Okay, if we combine our but with nothing, then nothing happens, so to say. But if we combine, where is a good example? Let's see. The first one is good actually. Here, but with voice, so we have both the 1 and the 2, so both no voice, minus voice is 1. So we replace the minus voice feature 1 by the other minus voice feature. So it's vacuous docking, nothing happens. And this is the analysis by Wolf. So it basically means there should happen something. If we have floating feature, then it cannot have the same feature value as the original one of the stem. This is the way of thinking. I tried to improve the analysis in a more fine-grained way with containment theory. So I think all of you know in phonology correspondence theory, the mainstream in OT actually, but the original was actually that the input is still kept in the output and things are just made invisible. Here by drawing on association lines that are sometimes de-associated, but it's still there, but you cannot see it in the output. My idea was that habla is our stem for hablar, to speak. So the final vowel is plus low. And then we have our subjunctive suffix, which is just a floating feature, being both plus low and minus low. If we, look at candidate B first, we could say, oh, nothing happens, but this is against the main tendency, actually many languages, that featural content, here in this case, the plus minus low feature, should be associated with a segmental node. This is what I meant here. And this is violated twice. So we want actually to have all the material features connected to a segmental node. This is violated by candidates A, C once, by candidate B it's valid twice. We cannot associate all of them if we look at theories of representation, so theory of computation, then we shouldn't have the same value in different in contradictory ways. So a vowel, if you pronounce a vowel, your tongue cannot be both raised and lowered at the same time. This is the way of thinking. It's more actually a phonetic thing in the beginning. So no association is not a good option. Partial association is a good option. And here this do not associate same feature constraint comes in. This is what I made up, but it's very similar to the feature no vacuum is talking by Matthew Wolf. It's actually just a type of OCP constraint that says that good example here in candidate C. You see the plus low and the other plus low features are connected either disconnect or but they're still in containment theory kind of connected, and this is not possible in regard to the do not associate same feature constraint. So this is the thing what I'm looking for. I think I got you so far. Okay, see nodding heads. Great. So our winner is bad because max low, we make one feature invisible, but this is kind of always a problem unless we have no association at all, but this is even more problematic in regard to first constraint here. It works with habla, but also with other verbs like temer, to fear. Here it's the other way around, that E becomes A. And this is also what we got. We cannot do the same strategy of associating the minus low feature because we have this association of the same feature, no vacuous docking Wolf's terms. No association at all is bad anyway, so we have to take the plus low feature. And now coming to what Fitzpatrick et al. Said, that it's kind of random that it's both E and E as correspondence of R. It's not random. If we have both the plus low and the minus low feature, no one says anything about the feature plus minus high. So if we combine this original E vowel with the plus low feature as in candidate C, then the original high feature gets deleted because, as I already said, a tongue cannot be both raised plus high and lowered plus low. This is phonetically and functionally impossible. So our high feature is changed anyways. Okay, this is the reason why Viva is the outcome and not Vivi or Vivi or anything else. So this is an approach of polarity in Spanish that is possible, but actually it's not necessary because we can explain it in a morphological way too. Let's get a look on disharmony. So I think we've understood how polarity works, but this is still important for disharmony. Here are these two different definitions. Polarity, as we saw already, as the same feature becomes the opposite. For disharmony, it has less this paradigmatic view than a more syntagmatic view, that the trigger of our disharmony, dissimulation actually, is present in the output. So a certain feature, alpha f, must appear as minus alpha f in an adjacent phonological constituent or tier, such as the segment or the syllable. This is my own definition, but you can see this is very similar to the polarity definition, only that, we have this syntagmatic relationship. Okay, maybe disharmony is better explained by hands-on material. In mum, for instance, with a couple of suffixes that disharmonize in respect to roundedness. Among with forms like hasbu, jeshbu, qutbu, tsokpi, and yutsbi. Look at the feature round. So a, e, and e are not rounded. U are rounded. And this is not the case with D and E. So O and U are both rounded, and E, P is unrounded. So we have this disharmonizing effect of this suffix. This works for many case of the people suffix, and there are also other causatives and verbalizers in mum, but it's just a derivation. As you know, in building words, there are many irregular forms, such as these. We have still attestations of tsakpi or tsupu, wikpi, wikpu. So it's kind of irregular. It's just a tendency. It's not full, fully explained, but it's still a strong tendency, especially with this pu suffix. As mentioned, there are other ones, but here we have the most instances in the Norway England grammar. So I'm a stratal OT phonologist. So in this way of thinking, we could say it's semi-productive. It's not fully productive. It had many exceptions, or at least a lot of exceptions. Belongs to derivation in morphology. And this would mean in stratal OT terms, this is the stem level. In stratal OT, we have this basic way of thinking that phonology is organized at three levels. We have the stem level, building words at the base form, then the word level, the completing words, and a new phonology, new phonological ranking of constraints at a phrasal level. Maybe they're even more than three, but this is the the common sense in stratal OT. And all these things here point to the fact that this happens at the stem level. So the irregular part of phonology. In mum, there's also harmony. You find both disharmony and harmony at the same time. Look at, for instance, chukuch, so it's a retroflex, anach and denech, heap, piece of wood, and group. All these ach, ich, uch, and so on suffixes are actually measure words. So this is a word-defining suffix. Actually, it's needed. It's also derivation in morphology. And here again, there are some exceptions like shkanich, bauch, or buuch, double third, and a lot. So it's not totally irregular. The main tendency is that this vowel totally assimilates to the preceding vowel, like u, a, e, but as you can see, there are exceptions. This is important. Again, the same with the disharmony. It's probably an instance of the stem level. Okay, if we want to explain it in a constrained way, this could look like this. So our input could look like tuk and unspecified vowel, and I'm using the standard orthography for my language, so that you know I don't mean yeah or even d. Here in the example, we could say that we need to specify. And where does this specification come from? There are actually two possibilities. One is feature copying, the other one is feature spreading. I stick to the latter one. And we could say that this empty vowel in terms of the respective features is filled by the features around, high and low, by its preceding vowel. So it spreads to the right and we get the U. You can see, I think I'm myself in my way. You can see that integrity is violated. Integrity just means that a feature is associated to only one segment and no more. So a one-to-one mapping, actually. This is violated, of course. We could instead say, if we don't want to spread features, we could insert other features. So faith feature is actually, in this case, dependency of features. So don't empathize as a rule of thumb. Actually, in MUM, the default vowel is probably E, because if we have vowel neutralization, E is the typical outcome. So we could insert all the features we need to create E, but it seems that DAP feature or belong to faith is ranked higher than integrity, so this is no option. The same with a totally informal terms unmarked vowel, cheval, is also the same here. So apanthesis is not a good solution. A good solution for MUM at least seems to be to spread vocalic features. So have in mind this ranking faith of features, OCP round, we'll see what this means, and integrity. So coming to disharmony, this is explained here. I know it looks a little bit messy, and I'm sorry for it, but I think we can go through it in a very solid way. Okay, the stem in yellow is minus round. I think there's no problem with that. And we have this unspecified p, pu suffix. It's always high, so it's never po, pa, pam. So we can say that this plus high feature is pretty stable. It must belong to our suffix here. But what is not so clear is is the question, is it plus round or is it minus round? And this Wolfschen way of thinking of polarity helps us here too. We could say that, oh, maybe it's both round and non-round at the same time. So if we delete, well, we have to delete because it's contradictory. We have to get rid of one feature at least. So if we delete the minus round feature, this would create a pu, pu. It violates max actually because we make a association line invisible. So this is a weakness of our winner, but still okay because every candidate here has this weakness. In respect to candidate B, we can see, oh, maybe we do the same as with the vowel harmony. Remember the measure words? So maybe, what about P? So we delete the plus round feature, but keep the minus round feature. This is the same outcome as with faith, so actually max, but it violates our pretty highly ranked constraint OCP round. That basically means assign a violation mark for every sequence in syllables of vowels of the same feature value here in terms of plus minus round. So this is our disharmonizing constraint, as OCP usually does. So P is bad in this respect. Of course, We could also integrate a parenthetic feature, minus round, but as we saw earlier, a parenthesis of features is not an option for mum. These are three options, but actually there's an interesting fourth option. We said before that we keep the identity of the stem vowel and change the identity of the suffixal vowel, but maybe we could do it the other way. So P could be a default and qt changes to qut. Is a logical option, OT thinking. And here we could say that to achieve this, the original minus round feature gets deleted. But we have this floating feature of the suffix plus round, which is associated to the base. At the same time, we have to delete the plus round feature, which was associated to the P. And yeah, this is all what remains. But we have two violations of max. So this is worse than our Qitpu candidate. So our winner does the job pretty well, actually. You could do the same thing with plus round stems like Yutspi. This works the same. I don't think I have to explain this example here because it works the same way as the Qitpu example. As you can see, it's very similar to the polarity case, but you can see the trigger of the polarity. In polarity itself, it's this within segment thing. Here it's across different syllables. So what are the benefits of this account actually? It captures the similarities of polarity and disharmony. We already saw just in the description that polarity and disharmony are pretty similar. So if things are similar in a descriptive way, then it's a good idea to think that they're also similar in a theoretical way. This is captured by this analysis. Another thing, what is called morph integrity is guaranteed. What I mean, I had this quote here: integrate your theme vowel into the root, which is from a constraint definition by Martin Krämer, 1999, very, very early paper by Martin Krämer. Here the problem is that morph integrity is a description that actually no language changes the morphological identity of an exponent. So you cannot say that a plural marker becomes a marker of something else just to make the phonology happy. This makes very complicated grammars in the terms of Ricardo Bermúdez Otero. This is a bad division of labor between phonology and morphology. This is why I mentioned this morph integrity hypothesis. In the analysis by Kramer on Yucatec-Meyer, here he based the analysis on this doubtful constraint, and we don't have this problem here with overspecification. I think this is a good thing. We should keep these good things. Another thing, in MUM, it cannot be explained by different strata or prosodic domains. What I mean, this is why I highlighted the things about the stem level and the word level in MUM. In the analysis by Martin Krämer, we will see it in a minute. The idea is that we have both harmony and disharmony, but at different levels of phonology. So this would do the job, but this only works if these two phenomena are meaningful parts of different parts of the morphology. We will see it in a minute. Okay. This is from Kramer, actually, explaining the harmony in Yucatec. The idea is the same as my original approach, that we have an unspecified suffix here with unspecified vowel and l, and the outcome is lul with u. it is harmonizing with the stem vowel. This is what S-ident means, or early OT times. So we could say this is kind of agree. So our harmony constraint that demands harmony between vowels, which results in lubul. But if this vowel is specified, then we'll get a problem with ident of features. So this is the case with lubul and some other suffixes with k, for instance. But not ik. Ik does another job. It is specified, so we would have a problem with ident feature, even though we would still like to have agreeing suffixes with their bases. Okay, this was the harmony by Krämer, but how does he explain disharmony? And in Yucatec, you have it's a kind of causative verbalizer. In Yucatec, you have a suffix kunt or keen. There's actually also tone involved. I think it's a high tone here. And you have a base like uts. Here's a winner. Uts kind. In this analysis by Krämer, we're in the stem level. And here's our OCP constraint, more or less, that demands disharmony, which is applied to stems. This is a stem. And there's also a harmony demanding constraint. This is what S-ident word is meant for. But this is only applicable for the word level. This is not really straightal OT. This is kind of pre-straightal OT. So this is why he uses this indexed constraints. So this is the reason why underspecification in this analysis does not result in harmony, but in disharmony. Because of different strata. You could take this works, but not in mum. Here are the suffixes we looked on, or we should look on. In mum, we saw the harmonizing ach, ich, uch suffix. It's unproductive. It is made for derivation, for measure words. The pi, pu suffix is also more or less unproductive and also part of derivation. So the red parts are all indicators of the stem level. The blue script is meant for indicators of the word level. So the al, il, ul, and the same with k suffix is productive and is part of inflections for tense and mood. Then we have this kun, keen suffix, which is not so clear. It is very productive in Yucatec Maya, but it's also actually part of derivation. So it's not always clear in straightal OT, but you could still argue in a very solid way that this, so the al, il, ul suffix is word level and the kin, kun suffix is stem level because it's part of the derivation. And so there are still derivational suffixes with productive regular phonology. So the analysis in two levels makes sense for Yucatec, but not for mum. But at least we could say the mum analysis would also explain the Yucatec case, but not the other way around. Okay. Sorry, the sickness makes me a little bit dry in the throat. Sorry. Okay, we saw that mum cannot be explained the same way as Yucatec. And there are also, it's kind of it's not the real conclusion for now, but an interim conclusion. We looked at harmony, disharmony, and polarity now from a more synchronic point of view. But there's also at least an interesting case of diachrony that disharmony can develop into polarity. Maybe it's just accidental polarity, so description, but not necessarily in theory. And we'll have a look at this now in terms of Romance languages. Okay, we remember, I hope I made it all correctly because of only a very sketchy knowledge of Spanish. In the subjunctive, we would have like cante, tema, and viva. So in these brackets, I mean, it is kind of morphologically there or somehow present, but it's not spelled out in the phonology. So this is the R conjugation, the A conjugation, and the E conjugation. And I highlighted all the low vowels in blue and the non-low vowels in red. So it's, at least in this case, a nice example of polarity because it's the same slot in the morphology. In Latin, we have a similar scenario. Here, only the, I think it's the first conjugation in English terms. I would say it's the R conjugation, at least from my German knowledge of Latin. Here, the R is not visible in the phonology, and E is the case. So cantat would mean he sings, and cantet, he, she, it may sing, that he, she, it sings. It's not visible, but we could say it's kind of still there, at least in a theoretical way. In other examples, like takeat, that he is silent, he, she, it may be silent, with a more disharmony relationship between these two vowels. Both are present. We could say, at least in this example, R is our exponent of the subjunctive, because before we have a non-low vowel and R must be low. So the opposite of the R conjugation, we have a low vowel as basic theme vowel, and a subjunctive marker has to be a mid vowel, so a non-low vowel. The same works for capiat and audiat. So we have non-low vowels which are followed by low vowels. So this is a disharmony case, at least in description. Yeah, a little problematic are forms like agere, to act, to do, agat, she, it may act. There, what's the trigger of our disharmony? If there is disharmony, it's not there. Maybe it's not disharmony at all, but yeah, keep it in mind. We'll have a look at it in a few seconds, actually. And I also had to look at another Italic language, very old, from the 5th century, before Common Era. I think it still survived Jesus, the language. So yeah, around this time we're speaking of. And in Oscan, it's pretty closely related to Latin. We have a more visible disharmonic relationship. Here, exclude the consonantal conjugation first. All the theme vowels of the verbs they're always present. So tadait, it, she, he may estimate. The R marker of the verb, the theme vowel, is visible, and the subjunctive or conjunctive vowel is E. So the low, the verb ends in a low vowel, and then our subjunctive marker is non-low. The other way around with poteat, I used the transcription by Bach from 1904, so very, very old. And the U with accent is actually O, and I with accent is E. So in brackets, you can see the more or less pronunciation. And here again, we find a disharmonic relationship between these two exponents. The same with faciat, in a more Latin-like transcription, I would write like this. Just that you know, there's some confusion with the third person singular endings in Oscan. Usually it's de, but sometimes it's written as te. There are not so many inscriptions in Oscan, about 800, so we don't know how this variation works. Maybe it's probably just an error. We don't know so precisely. But this is another topic. Here we have actually a very nice disharmonic relationship, except for the consonantal conjugation he, she, it may begin. Here the trigger is again 0. We could say that phonology is capable of looking into some morphological units. Here we could say that our subjunctive vowel does not look at the preceding vowel, the preceding syllable, but at the preceding exponent. Here 0 in this case, and this exponent has the feature minus low. of course, there's nothing in it, and the unmarked case always the minus case. So at least in this distinctive non-privative way of features, there is polarity because 0 is non-low. Yeah. In more theoretical terms, here my Semiticist background comes into play. We could say this is from Czech in Semitic language in Ethiopia, that 0 exponents and 0 phonemes really matter. In this case, it's about strengthening, closely related to gemination, actually. Here, the second radical gets strengthening, typical devoicing in Czech, but also r becomes n. And as you see, the k is strengthened. This is the idea behind it, but it's not really the second element if you don't assume that 0 is just 0. If you count 0 as the first radical, then the generalization applies that the second radical gets the strengthening. If the second radical is a vowel or 0, then we don't have any strengthening. This is what Faust and Hever found out for Czech. So maybe being 0 is something meaningful. In a more theoretical way, a few years later, Noam explained this, that the underlying representation, input to the phonology, is not directly connected to our morphosyntax at the left side here. So we have a root, whatever, which is just the morphosyntactic information of the meaning. And as a mediator between this morphosyntax part and the underlying representation, we have the realm of radicals, the phonological index, which is, for instance, also prone to morphological roots like impoverishment, for instance. In this sense, we could say that 0 elements are not part of the underlying representation, but part of the phonological index. This works for Czech, but still we could say that these 0 parts are kind of radicals in this sense, and they are minus low, so the generalization applies that R becomes is present if the element before is non-low. So we keep this here. Okay, I think I'm coming to an end now. To summarize, still we don't know if there's real polarity. If there is a real polarity, then with a nice finding that not only descriptively but also theoretically polarity and disharmony are very akin. We keep the morph integrity, that every exponent remains what it is. There's no change of being another morpheme. We explained the MAM data very well by not drawing in different strata, but we can do it in the same stratum. And we also saw that disharmony has a diachronic relationship to polarity. Remember, Oskin was very disharmonic-like, Latin, mostly disharmonic because typically both the vowels of theme vowel and of the subjunctive were present, but not in the R conjugation, first conjugation. And in Spanish, we did a step further, that it's always within the same theme vowel. So it's actually a very nice development from a very archaic Italic language over Latin, thence to Spanish. So we could keep this generalization if we say that disharmony and polarity are kind of akin to each other. Okay, these are my references, and I hope you enjoyed the talk. If you want to get the slides, then just download it via this QR code, and I'm happy for your questions.
Thank you very much, Dominique, for this exciting talk. So now we have time for interact with the audience. So si alguien tiene alguna pregunta o un comentario, Ahora podemos ir levantando la mano o simplemente abrir el micrófono y hacer la pregunta. So maybe, Esther.
Okay. Thank you very much for your talk. It's very, very refreshing for me. In the past, I have been working with Tlapaneco, and I spent many months to know if there is really a polarity. I have a paper. I published a paper because, but I know that when I read Matthew Wolf, the lazy, there is many people. I find that polarity is notion not easy to explain, but also is very discussed about the learnability of this thing. But
Agree.
beside this, I saw with your data in MAM and the data that I have in Tlapaneco that it must be something in the language where there is polarity. I mean, I think that is a not because it's a useful but concept, but it answer many things about the alternation, a morphological alternation in the languages. What do you think about the position, for example, Matthew Wolf and Lacey have a different position about the notion of polarity?
Let me think a couple of seconds.
Ah,
Well, I think the main difference between these two accounts is how we think about paradigms. In this early Delacy work, paradigms were a thing. It influenced the phonology. This may be also, the spirit of the early 2000s, which is not present in Wolf, which only looks at the input-output relation. But still, I don't like the definition of no vacuous docking. I think it's more, we get more if we say with an OCP constraint, which is more general. We know OCP is a thing in language. This is not there in the Wolf analysis. And still, and this is the elephant in the room, I don't know if there is really polarity. I think in descriptive terms, it's totally fine that we have partial, maybe even total polarity for languages, but still, and you posed this question already, is there a learnable thing? Well, in formal terms, transderivational constraints are not really learnable. So I think the early Delacy account can be forgotten in this case.
okay.
But I think actually that if we have a theory of phonological representations, then we expect that certain patterns may occur, but sometimes only not so frequently. This overspecification thing is highly marked. I think if there's overspecification, then it takes a lot of time for a child to learn to acquire this overspecification. This is much more complicated than you have a segmental node and the feature geometry above it. So this makes it likely that if there's polarity, it's hard to learn, but it seems to be learnable. This is what I think.
Okay.
I could also have some criticism to myself if you're interested
Come
in
on.
it. In my analysis, I worked with just with distinctive features which are either plus somewhat or minus somewhat. But what about privative features? So first, we don't know if all of at least a majority of features are binary. In strict CV or general government phonology, we would say that all features are just elements which are there or not there, so present or absent. So it's very difficult to have this analysis and a privative feature. I think we could rescue this, at least in strict CV or government phonology in the broader sense. We have to get ahead of a more complicated element. If you have A and E, you say E is the head, so we get E, A is there, we get A, more like this. So we have to get ahead. I remember a talk at the last MFM, which combines strict CV with optimality theory in the sense that we had the problem with hydras. So the input was a double-headed element, and the phonology had to decide what the head is going to be. We could apply the same approach to the mum example, saying that both U and E are heads, come together, and we have to decide what of these two elements should be the head. This could solve our problem, actually. But I still don't know how it works with tones, for instance. I'm not a tone phonologist, so this could be very tricky. I think it should work with tonal languages with only level tones. If contour tones are forbidden, we could say the phonological input is LH, HL, whatever. And since middle tones, since contour tones are forbidden, one part of this complex tone has to go. But as far as I know, there are some examples of tonal polarity languages with contour tones, so this doesn't work.
For example. Okay.
Actually,
Good.
with mum, we instead of plus minus round, we could base our analysis on coronal and labial, or on U and I in strict CV terms. So the input could be something like pu, like in French or German. And since front round vowels are not allowed in mum, the phonology has to decide if it's either front and unrounded or back and rounded. For mum, it would work, but again, for tones, it would be very, very difficult.
Yeah, the thing that I found in Tlapaneco is, I mean, there is a pattern, a visible pattern, where for the genitive first and third person, if you have EA at the base, the genitive is realized as U. If you have UO, the genitive is E.
Okay, this is very similar to the mum example.
Yeah. There are other complications, over application, under application, but because I do this work with the OT, and it worked very, I mean, it worked good, but there are other complications with the A is always become O, for example, but there are other complications. I mean, and I see very near to the mum. No?
Yeah.
The
This example from Tlapaneco was person marking, right? First person and the third person or something like that. Okay, so
it's a possessive.
okay.
But it's the genitive. I mean, yeah.
Okay, this looks pretty word level like. So we wouldn't expect that much complications and exceptions in straighter terms. Interesting.
Yeah.
Do you remember your paper on that in Tlapaneco?
I can send you, but it's in Spanish. I don't know if you can read, but the example are very clear. I mean, and the constraint and all these things. If do you want, I can send you.
This would
It
be
has
great.
been
Yeah.
published in a book in Spain.
This would be really great, actually. Yeah, that would be nice. And well, I don't claim to speak it, but my reading capabilities are enough to come through it.
Okay. Okay. I can send you. I ask Mario your mail. Okay. Yeah.
I can also type it in the chat, probably my email. I use my most frequently used email address. That is this one. Yeah.
Oh, let me.
That would be a pleasure.
Again, could you put in the chat?
Ya está en el chat.
It should
Ya
be.
está en el chat. Ok.
Sí.
No lo veo.
Te lo estoy mandando por eso, te lo mandé por mensaje.
Ok. Gracias.
De nada.
So, ¿alguien tiene alguna pregunta? O si no, yo puedo hacer una. In order to some things that you said, Dominique, I have a comment or a question. How much is useful to first, as a first step of the analysis of harmony or disharmony or polarity or wherever, to determine the internal organization of the vowel system in terms of the oppositions that make it up. So, because, for example, you put the case of E versus A and E versus O, but there are different kind of oppositions. You have a privative opposition and a gradual opposition, but in systems of 5 vowels. But in systems of 4 vowels, the difference between, okay, so.
Yeah, I see. Okay, let's say a language has E, U, E, and A. E would be the counterpart of E.
Exactly.
Not really.
Yeah.
I see your point. Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, in MUM and Yucatec, we have these 5 vowel systems.
Yeah.
It would be interesting to look at Ainu, a language in Japan that has a similar phenomenon. Kramer has an analysis of Ainu. I don't remember what the system of vowels was there, but would be worth a consideration, the vocalic system. Yeah, agree. Yeah.
¿Alguien tiene comentarios, preguntas? Carlos.
Okay, well, thank you again, Dominic. I was thinking at first why you haven't talked about tonal polarity, in the sense that I was doubting if it was really the same phenomenon. But well, you said that you have like a problem within a privative system of features. But I am thinking to the other side regarding tonal phenomena. You have those changes like in Asian languages where you have like systems with more than one tone, and let's say tone 1 goes to 2, 2 goes to 3, 3 goes to 4. I don't know if we can think about polarity within a broader context of a chain of changes, both diachronically and synchronically.
I'm thinking. So it kind of depends what features or whatever are changed. both in mum, you could take Tlapaneko. It's always about high vowels, which are rounded or unrounded. We had these, in Spanish, it was vowel height that was changed. It really depends. Yeah, maybe there is a kind of hierarchy. But I think I have to look at more examples to say more about it. Yeah.
Okay,
I
okay.
remember only kind of 1.5 examples of tonal polarity. One, oh, what was the language? But there's across the board polarity. So all the high vowels in the language become low vowels, low vowels become high. This is really a thing. But I mentioned, Nicholas Rowley once mentioned to me that there's a language with own, I forgot the name. I know the paper, but I forgot the name of the language. And there is tonal polarity only for one tonal TBU. But I think this was a language with contour tones. So it was very difficult. To say more about it, I have to look at more data.
Okay, okay. So what I would understand from your perspective is that true, well, maybe not true, but canonical polarity only occurs within the range of just one feature, right? And that
Yeah.
would be okay.
Yeah. So vocalic features like frontness, backness, and high versus low, probably there we have some examples actually. Maybe this speaks for maybe this privative view that remember I said it would be possible to have only P as input. So with the coronal and the labial gesture connected in a 5 vowel system, this is totally fine and predicts that we won't have this system in a language with front rounded vowels, for instance. Yeah, these are some predictions that follow from this privative view, but not from the binary. If specification of binary features is possible, then we should find polarity with many features.
Okay.
If it's only small set, which are only possibly explained by place nodes, then we're getting somewhere, I think.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you, Dominique, again.
Here we go.
Tenemos todavía bastante tiempo para continuar con la charla con Dominique. Si alguien tiene alguna pregunta o algún comentario.
Primero, ¿no? Perdón, antes de que te interrumpiera, creo.
No, yo ya pregunté. Ok, bueno, si no hay más preguntas, agradecemos mucho la presencia y la presentación de Dominique. Thank you very much, Dominique.
Thank you for inviting me. It was a pleasure, actually, really. And Carlos, nice to see you. We emailed so much, but now I have a face, and I think I saw you briefly in Edinburgh at the screen.
Yeah. But no, this is my face. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, again, nice to meet you. And well, if you are interested, we have a conference in May, the Sound Systems of Latin America. Maybe if you are interested in present something else and you cannot jump the plant, maybe we can arrange for you to present online if you're interested. So it would be
Definitely. Is it already findable on the internet, the conference, that I can have a
Yeah,
look?
yeah, yeah. If you want, I can send you
This would be great.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah,
perfect.
so there is interest.
Okay, oh, well, that's great.
Bye.
Bueno,
Muchas gracias.
tenemos un aviso rapidísimo que tiene que ver con lo último que dijo Carlos y es, sigue abierta la convocatoria, hasta el domingo cierra, nos va a alegrar mucho recibir sus resúmenes, va a ser una conferencia buenísima, ¿no? Estamos muy emocionados por tener la conferencia en México y que esté organizada con sede en la ENA y nos va a dar mucho gusto recibir sus resúmenes.
Yo me pongo un pañuelo porque no soy capaz de hacer tengo como mil archivos que transcribir, no tengo claro, entonces,
Una revisita al fenómeno de la polaridad en MEPA, quizá.
podría, pero sí, sí, bueno, no sé, voy a hacer lo posible, de veras, si no, yo de todas maneras estaría ahí.
Muchas gracias.
Ok.
Que va a ser muy importante contar con su presencia, doctora. Y bueno, ya vamos aprovechando. El próximo mes, la siguiente conferencia será el 10 de marzo con Pavel Yosap de la Universidad de Edimburgo y será sobre los patrones de sonido de las lenguas eslávicas o eslavas y
Mm,
los orígenes de la fonología generativa. Así que mucho Trubetskoy, mucho Badois de Courtenay, mucha escuela de Kazán. Así que
ok.
no se lo pierdan, por favor.
No, vamos a ver. Sí, 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 cómo no. Pues gracias y nos vemos, ¿eh? A
Gracias,
ver si se
doctora.
acaba la huelga pronto.
Ojalá que no sea como la ENA.
Ajá. Ok, chao.
Nos
Abrazos,
vemos.
gusto verlos y verlas. Chao.
Bye.
Espera,
Hugo, espérame. No te
espera,
di.
espera, espera.